I know you're dying to know what is under here.
You want me to be dying to know. And I'm not going to be dying to know.
I'm excited because I do know what's underneath here. Do you have any question? Like, do you think you know what it is?
If it's a dead animal, I'm going to be very displeased.
So, okay, for everybody on audio, we have in the table in front of us a jacket covering something. I don't know.
A jacket covering a thing that Tyler's excited about.
I'm very excited. All right.
You've built it up sufficiently.
Go ahead. Go ahead and open it.
Open
it.
Open it.
See,
I should have been more excited than I was.
You should have been.
And we also are here completely unarmed. Like,
we don't have milk or anything.
We have no drinks, man.
So, guys, we have cookies in front of us. The cookie company here in Milledgeville. So they just opened up over in the mall, aka the small, and we went over there. So Eddie, you get to pick which one you want, man.
Brother, you know, I should have been much more excited and had much more faith in you.
You should have been way more kind to me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take these back.
You can.
These are mine.
You're just not allowed to have any water for the remainder of the episode if you do that to me. That's my rules.
All right, guys.
So this looks like a chocolate peanut butter.
Okay, so this one's a sea salt and caramel.
Salted caramel
sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. That one over there is like cinnamon swirl. And then that one's just like your straight up traditional.
As big as your head, though. Can I?
Yeah. Pick it up and show the class what we're dealing with here. It's a freaking cookie, man.
That's a cookie.
That's a freaking cookie right there, son.
I mean, and the chips are like meticulously placed.
Oh yeah, they've done a very, very good job. So anyway,
are we going halves so that we can have a sample? Because I kind of want to have all three.
Yeah, we can go halvesies on these things. So split them up.
All
right, come on, you got this. See, I don't know if that was completely a half.
Well, that's the way. Okay, so the way you do this.
Is there cookie breaking etiquette here?
No, if you're going to go halves on something, the guy that breaks it in half surrenders to the other guy for the pick. That way you're motivated to break it in half cleanly and you're really mad at yourself.
That's actually pretty good. But
so you can pick the half there.
Yeah, bro, like that side's totally bigger, but I'm going to be kind. Since we're going around the world here, we're going around the world here, so I'm not that concerned about it.
Easy 2,000 calories worth of cookies.
Okay, guys, so here's the thing, is typically we do coffee with the bros. Today,
this is cookies with bro.
Do you want to try that again?
Cookies with the bros.
Cookies with the bros.
You're crumbing.
Dude, we're just going to have crumbs all over the place.
Crumbing.
But who cares? All right, so shout out to Caitlin opening her business here. This is not sponsored. Just for the record, but oh my Lord, guys, if you come to Milledgeville, check out the cookie company. You're welcome, world. These things, they're freaking delicious. Have you had one yet?
No.
She's been around for a minute, but she just opened up her new place here in Milledgeville.
So is she going to provide free cookies for our guests for the rest of the episodes?
You know, I think that's a great idea,
This is pretty amazing advertising. I think we should strike.
Yeah, this is probably really bad podcasting etiquette to be chewing on a cookie while you're trying to podcast.
I don't even care.
Well, all right.
That's good cookie.
We're going to get through this, but hey, guys, this week we're talking about the Crystal Palace. God, these cookies are so freaking good. Yeah, I'm going to get through this intro really quick. Okay. So this week we're talking about the Crystal Palace. If you haven't heard of it, this is a pretty incredible structure. We had Lee go through, our researcher extraordinaire. Thank you, Lee, for putting all of this stuff together for us to have a great conversation around it. I have been wanting to do this episode for a very long time.
Yeah,
I seriously think I've been wanting to do this episode since we started the show.
You've been wanting to do this episode, but you have not wanted to actually research this episode.
And so we had to bring...
Thank you to Lee, because you tried to pawn this task off on me, and I was like, no.
Yeah, so we hired Lee, and Lee got it.
And Lee did it because... You know, he
likes Management 101, everybody.
And he's Management better than us, frankly.
All right. So the Crystal Palace. Let's set the stage here so you guys understand what it is. So this is a building, and if you're familiar with football,
was a building.
If you're familiar with football, Crystal Palace FC. That's the reason why it's named Crystal Palace. It's actually after this structure.
Yeah.
So this structure, I'm going to read from this here because I'm going to botch it if I don't. All right. So in 1840, Henry Cole suggested that England host a huge event to encourage industrial innovation.
Yeah.
And so he gets his buddies together, Prince Albert, and was it Queen Victoria? And they put together a committee to make it happen. But it took like 10 years before they actually decided to pull the trigger on this thing.
My wife is highly offended by what was it? Queen Victoria. Like, this is for those that really love this period of Victorian history, you need to say that as though you know something.
Well, also, I don't know. I don't know things.
Henry Cole. Okay. So he has his ideas that you're talking about. My favorite. This guy had idea upon idea, and one of them was actually exchanging Christmas cards.
Really?
Yeah, like they mentioned that. I want to go back and look a little more, but I think this guy might be the reason why we give like Christmas cards.
This is the whole reason we have the Hallmark Channel is because of Henry Cole.
He's the reason how much trickles out of this one little. Yeah.
It is pretty incredible how connected this one little project. I say a little project. This big project is.
This is a mega project in every sense in its day.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. All right. So moving forward. All right. So the idea kind of sat for a while, sat for about 10 years. The event was scheduled in 1851.
For 1851. So May 1851, and they have 16 months. This is the construction of design and construction schedule. Yes.
Yeah. So Queen Vicky and, Prince.
Oh.
What?
Oh,
I'm sorry, Queen Victoria.
You're going to die a slow death at the hands of all of the Anglophiles out there. This is not going to be good.
I'm sorry, guys. So Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, basically they're like, all right, we're going to do this thing. Let's go. All right. So they go ahead and pull the trigger on it. And 16 months to finance, design, and build the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and research too.
And research and and pull the exhibitors together and everything. Like it's one massive conference, but think of doing a conference, but you have to build the building first. Mm-hmm. That is what they're doing here.
Which makes it somewhat of a temporary building. So it's like a mega project that was understood to be temporary from the beginning.
Which is a little bit foreshadowing, I'll say, because we'll get to that. We're going to get to it, all right? So final design, once that was approved, once the final design was chosen and they said, this is the direction that we're going, they had 9 months to complete this structure. All right, let's go into some of the specs. After there were 245 designs submitted. All right, 245 designs submitted, and a lot of them, they got axed.
In a contest.
In a contest.
Yeah, none of them make it.
Yep, none of them make it. And so one of them was, that was close, it had a ton of bricks in it, literally tons and tons of bricks. And they were like, we're not going to have enough supply of bricks to actually pull that off. So they had to can the idea of using bricks for this building.
In all of England.
We
can't source that many bricks in this amount of time. It doesn't get manufactured.
That is mega project territory. Yeah. So enter Joseph Paxton. Enter Joseph Paxton. He comes into the picture. He was a gardener by trade. A freaking gardener by trade. He actually cultivated Cavendish banana, which is the main banana that we eat today. So again, just ties into our daily life. This is hilarious. See bananas, you can thank Joseph Paxton.
Fun fact. I have heard that, how candy bananas.
This is cookie break for me. Please continue.
You know how a candy banana tastes completely different than a real banana?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It apparently that was almost more accurate to the original taste of a banana.
Really?
There's some validity in that taste. I think.
So the OG bananas were much sweeter.
I'm not certain. So again, I'm just going to spout something off that's very interesting and have no backup.
Lee, please provide fact checking.
Wouldn't that be amazing if it was true? And somewhat relevant to what we're talking about.
Somewhat. So, all right, Joseph Paxton, let's get back to him. He's a gardener. He apprentices a gardener. This is what he does. He had built something before that was a bigger greenhouse that had caught the Queen's attention. And she had toured it. It was a big greenhouse. Right. She toured it in a carriage, I think. And so that's kind of how like the connection started to form there. So he came forward and he presented this idea for what would become the Crystal Palace. The Paxton design was 1,851 feet long, which was supposed to be like, it was supposed to open in 1851, right? That's when the fair or the exhibition was. So they were like, all right, yeah, 1,851 feet long. It was 120 feet wide, 34 feet tall, 1 million square feet of glass, 3,300 columns, 2,224 beams, 20 plus miles of wooden gutters.
Main beams.
Of main beams, yes. 3,800 tons of cast iron. So that's iron that is poured into a mold, right? Casted. And then 700 tons of wrought iron, which is basically beaten by hand with tools into shape. Like, think of the tonnage of this. This is a freaking massive structure. My whole career, I think the biggest job that I ever did in steel was like 1,400, maybe, or was it 1,200?
Which one?
It was the one that I can't say on air, but it was a big office building for a specific branch of something or something other.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that one was like 1,400. I have not touched something that big in my whole career.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have yet either.
No, not 3,800 tons. I mean, that's,
looked at it, but not detailed that much
and
steel
really,
just alone. Like
3,800 tons plus 700 tons. I'm like, this is a
freaking
very large structure.
Huge structure, man.
Point of order too, like 245 designs submitted in a contest. They're all found to be lacking. Nobody wins the contest.
Right.
4 more specifically hand-picked designers are brought to the surface. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that submit the designs that use bricks. They do the research on the bricks and bricks aren't available. So then it gets kicked over to Paxton. Mm-hmm. Paxton is like, hey, why don't we just try something that isn't really tried before? So testimony to somebody, and it reminds me of Lee Evie.
I was going to get to that.
Yeah.
You're beating me to the punch on this one, but yes.
Me of that. Okay, I won't
totally
steal your thunder. I won't steal your thunder there.
Yeah.
I guess we're thinking on the same wavelength.
We're thinking on the same wavelength here. All right. So this is, I mean, just the sheer size of this thing. And keep in mind, again, guys, this is 1851. This is not yesterday. All right. Here comes the cool part, though. All right. So you remember how they had 9 months to put it all together, right? 9 whole months. It took them 5 months to bring this whole thing together. He had 9. He did it in 5.
Yes.
Okay. I know what you're thinking. And I've gotten this rebuttal before. Oh, but the safety specifications and all of the other things. Okay. I'm not even going to try to argue that. Obviously, it was probably less safe.
Yeah. Yes.
It was less safe. We know this. But
still,
that is insane. And that is from somebody who has never built anything. Like, he's not a contractor. He's not a mason. He's not like a carpenter. This guy is a flippin', gardener.
What's funny?
It's crazy. Now, he's built some big gardens, all right? He's built big gardens, but still, that is crazy town.
Large greenhouses.
Crazy town.
If you came to me and said, the aluminum curtain wall on my job that's fairly complex and has some pretty good geometry is going to be a 5-month lead time.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
They're building a whole building out of glass.
There was something really cool too that they did for installing the glass is that they almost had like a little like a roller system that they would roll up in the rafters. I'll see if we could find this, but I saw this in a video that was talking about it. They literally would like roll themselves along the trusses and install the glass as they rolled. And I think it was like, I can't remember the exact figure of how many panes of glass that they installed per day, but it was ridiculous. And they had to, in order to keep up with a 5-month schedule. I mean, come on. But something this size being done in 1850 in 5 freaking months.
So here's another fun
What?
one. Here's another fun one is that, and information's moving a lot slower in this day and time.
Yeah, it is.
We don't have the internet, right? I mean, this is moving slower. So knowing about the availability of new things
Yeah.
moves at a slower clip. This size glass, like the size panes,
Yeah.
had only been available for like 12 years at that point. Like the technology to actually create glass that large. There was a window tax in England at this time.
Yeah, there was.
And that had only been gone 5 years. So these things that needed to like be removed or be added in order to make it possible were brand new.
So what's funny is that, if Henry Cole had executed this plan in 1840, it wouldn't have happened this way.
No, it
couldn't have.
It wouldn't have even been available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. And what was even more fun is like the process of creating the glass.
Yeah.
That's nutso. Like literally people blowing glass and then cutting it down the side and laying it flat. And I mean, doing research on this, like there's a lot of material like science and stuff that I feel like I learned and picked up during just looking at this and studying for this episode.
This was awesome. I've got to applaud you, man, because I'm normally
Holy crap.
No, I am normally the one
That's the
that
cookies
is like
talking
the
right here.
history, like let's get in the weeds and
Yeah.
let's talk about. You've been talking about the Crystal Palace for a long time as build. And I started getting into this after research was done, and it's really cool. I mean, this really is an amazing mega project of its day.
Here's the crazy part though. Okay, so they go through, they have the exhibition.
Yeah.
That happens on schedule.
Yes.
In 1851, it happens because they were 5 months early. Okay. Guess what they did next? They moved the whole freaking thing. They took it down and reassembled it in, where is it? Synonym? I can't say that, guys. I'm sorry.
I tried to make note of it so that I could say it.
Our European friends are going to kill me after this one, I know. Anyway, but they modified the design, and the reconstruction efforts started in August 1852, and then Queen Victoria officially reopened the Crystal Palace at its new site in 1854. In 22 months to dismantle a structure of that size and move it, and they added onto it.
Right, that was the fun part.
They added to it. They added 2 more towers to this whole building. They added a ton of fountains. They added more, I think it was width to it. I think it was like
50% larger.
50%?
50% larger square footage. Yes.
They moved it in 22 months. A mega project got dismantled and moved in 22 freaking months. Like, we couldn't plan that in 22 months now, I feel like.
Yeah, the permitting process had to have been a little bit streamlined for this one. There are so many things that you can be like, I get it. How we do now.
That's not the point.
It doesn't diminish the feat. And it also, we're picking a little bit here.
We are.
Like, come on. 1851, they can do this?
What's so funny to me is like there are a couple things about this that I feel we can pull on and talk about. The first one is the fact that Joseph Paxton, very proper. What did Lee say? He said of the fancy variety. He said of the classy. He said had been trained as a gardener of the classy British variety.
I love it.
I got to give that a shout out. That's funny. That's what he put next to Joseph Paxton's name.
He did volunteer to come in and dress up as Joseph Paxton.
We should have taken him up on that for sure. That'd have been hilarious. Anyway, first things first, Joseph Paxton did not have any prior construction background, anything like that. He came in and he made it work.
Yes.
And there are connections to Lee Evie on this for sure.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know about Lee, you can go back and reference, I think it was episode 90, 91. We can put it in the show notes. Lee was in charge of the Pentagon renovation project. Yeah. He did not have a background in construction either. He came psychology. That's where he came from. He came from the background of negotiating things. It was hilarious when we had him on the show. Like he was getting on Zoom and he was like, man, I've put satellites into orbit easier. Like it's been easier to put satellites into orbit than to get on Zoom.
And he meant it literally.
And he literally meant that. Like he has put satellites into orbit. And what's just so striking to me is, you know, we talk all the time about like knowing the process, like knowing how things go together. We beat that drum pretty hard around here, but it's not everything. I think that construction experience is great. And you should have it, and you should try to develop that out. But at the end of the day, it's your skills with people, how you can motivate, how you can like just get them charged up and moving in the same direction. I mean, to do something like this in 5 months, you have to have that skill. Like it's a requirement. You have to have that skill. Yeah. It's not happening without it. The same thing for the Pentagon. Did he bring it in for like, I think it was $300 million under budget.
So we'll say under budget, ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Right. And the fun part about that is I would say the common thread has got to be just common sense because maybe you're not stuck in the trappings of how we do it.
You have no prior knowledge of it.
You've got no prior knowledge. Yeah. And so you're just somebody who has a good idea of how this could make common sense.
Right.
And you have to think through this design and think to yourself, well, it must have been incredibly repetitious.
Yeah.
To get that much square footage under one roof where we are manufacturing a building at this point.
They were doing prefabrication on Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Did you read that, Chestnut?
That doesn't surprise me, but no. So anything you've got on that, I'd be interested.
So I think I might need to do a little bit more digging, but I do know that there were pieces in it that were prefabricated. I think it was mainly steel. I think or the iron that they used in it because steel wasn't really.
Did you see the iron?
No.
Did you, like, if you look, it's ornate.
It is ornate.
Like this building is not something that you're just looking at it going, oh, well, yeah. I mean, they hacked something together. It's ornate.
It doesn't look like the steel beams that we have today.
No, it's ornate, decorative steel, like riveted together.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah. It's all exposed.
Yeah. They accent that as architecture.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing's a big hall.
Yeah.
So it's just goes and goes.
Yeah.
You know that they applied common sense to get there.
They had to have.
They had to. So, it's that necessity.
Mm-hmm. So if we're coming back to the point with Lee, he came in and he saw a problem and he applied his own background, his own knowledge, his own experiences into motivating the people around him to get the job done on time, under budget, and built for the next 50 years, which was the whole thing that he had chanted with the entire Pentagon around him. Like Lee was tasked by the president to go and fix this. It's crazy town. And he had no prior construction experience. So here's what that means for me. And here's what I think that means for everybody else that's listening. You don't have to know it all. I think the biggest skill that anybody can have is people skills. Mm-hmm. It's the ability to not work them, not lie to them, not manipulate. That's not what we're talking about. But the ability to work with people and find common ground and get them moving in the same direction. Those are the things that matter the most, I feel, in the construction industry. And what cracks me up is we'll sit there and we'll beat our chest over like, oh, look at this amazing project and how fast we did it. Mm. I'm like, okay, but guys, let's look back in time again. Like we have to look back in history at some of these different things. And that's the reason why I feel this is fascinating, is because we get so excited about little things today. Like it's the first time it's ever been done. like prefab's new. Guys, 1850, all right? And I know that wasn't the first time that they did prefab. Like the first glass building, let's do a building that's got a ton of glass in it. That's not new. 1850. Realize that there's nothing new under the sun, I think is a big part of this as well.
I want to back you up on something here too with the whole people side of things, because apparently, according to the research that Lee did, a lot of Joseph Paxton's self-promotion is what played into getting his design accepted, because there were others in the contest that submitted similar designs. So it wasn't Joseph's ability to come up with something that was so unique that nobody else had ever thought of it.
Yeah.
It was his ability to sell it to people. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't his ability to hammer nails or, hammer steel, and make it into something. It was his ability to move people. It was his ability to motivate people. And this was a huge government undertaking too.
Totally was.
And this had governments all over the world. It's really it's the precursor. It really is the proper precursor to the World's Fair.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And to that point, like, I'm just looking through all of the different things that happened during construction here. He got the government rallied around him for this project, obviously. But did you catch the part where citizens would come and pay 5 shillings to watch the construction project happen? Like, could you imagine doing something like that today?
Well, that's ridiculous. The last day.
It's like a circus in town, Yeah. Like crazy.
Well,
but it had never been done before.
People were giving money, like voluntarily giving money to make this happen.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like being taxed out of them. It was, hey, everybody, let's rally around this cause. Everybody give some money. Victoria and Albert donated their own money.
Yeah.
They even, and I want to say it was Joseph Paxton that suggested this, that it be free. That coming to the exhibition be free. But there was some elitism that actually kept that from happening, because they were worried that, like, when the riffraff came in, like, their opinions don't really matter about what's coming.
Yeah.
Also, you have a burgeoning country in America that was actually looked very much down on at the time when they arrived.
Yeah.
But apparently they exhibited very well. Their exhibits, their tools that they brought over, one of which was the Colt revolver.
Really?
Yes. Which was about to play a huge role in the Civil War that was going to happen just a few years later. So the historical ties here are pretty amazing.
So what are your takeaways from this? I know we had mentioned, just kind of not having construction experience being the only thing that matters. Mm-hmm. Having people skills obviously matter. What other things are you drawing from this? What other things do you find fascinating that we could give people to chew on?
Innovative materials has to be one of the takeaways.
Yeah.
And like your ability to go over and see reality where other people have said no has to be a takeaway. Not just being dismissive of ideas, but accepting ideas and giving them chance, giving them air. Knowing that the project would fail and having a mandate that the project has to happen created the air for people to say, well, maybe we need to look at this again. Mm-hmm. And, that necessity brought about kind of an open-mindedness that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So it's amazing how when we get motivated around a cause, how many times that cause can bring about processes that are outside of the box, and we find out new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
We should make a point of Joseph Paxton not having any design or construction experience. To what extent was he a part of the design? Was this like the Eiffel Tower where he drew up every single piece of steel that went into it? Or did he come up with the generalized design where it was, we're going to use iron and glass? That is a fun fact. I don't know. Maybe you do.
I don't know if I know that completely. That I think there was some evidence that he had actually drawn the design
Yeah.
himself. He's kind of a Renaissance man, you know, like it just kind of he knew a lot of stuff about a lot of things, and he just was just a smart guy.
But coming to the table without those preconceived notions, with kind of a child's eyes in many ways, enables us to innovate. And he came to the table without all the preconceiveds and those things that would cause him to say, oh no, it can't work that way.
We dismiss so often ideas from the younger generation.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where it's like, if we're going to the space race, let's go there. All right. This is a fun history conversation for me. All right. Getting Crystal Palace and the space race in one episode. This is a good day. If we're looking at the space race and you listen back to some of the interviews with the people that were there, the 18, 20, 22, 24, 30-year-olds that were putting men on the moon.
Yeah.
You'll hear him say, like, we didn't think about it not being possible. Like we didn't really think about it. Like we didn't think about all the ways it could go wrong. We just kind of did it. We put one foot in front of the other and we did the thing. And they had this crazy vision for, you know, putting people on the moon, and they were able to do it because they didn't know any better. But if you think about 60-year-olds of that day, the 50-year-olds, the maybe even 40-year-olds, heck, even some of the 30-year-olds, and maybe even some of the 20. There were a lot of people that were skeptical, saying like, this isn't going to be possible. Those are the people that didn't actually get us to the moon. They actually stood in the way of it. Now, I'm not talking about them criticizing processes or, you know, saying like, hey, that valve is going to explode, or like giving feedback. That's not what I'm talking about. Age prevents us from exploring new things in a lot of ways. And for them, for Crystal Palace, it's like he just didn't know any better. He didn't have the background to tell him that it wasn't possible. So he just did it. Like he just full steam ahead. Let's figure it out. We got it. Whatever. We're going to get it. We're going to get the confidence that we had talked about a couple, 5-Minute Fridays ago.
Yeah.
And I just find that really cool. It's just, it's ignorance more than anything. It's ignorance. And as a result, some pretty cool things can happen from ignorance.
There are a lot of casualties when you are on the bleeding edge, when you're the innovator. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, you talk about the people that succeed. Many times you don't talk about, forget about, or even burn in effigy the people that failed. Mm-hmm. We talk about the Wright brothers. They weren't the only ones trying to fly. No. They
were the only ones that made it.
They were the ones that made it.
Right.
We talk about Edison, but we forget about Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about those people that were the people that succeeded.
Henry Ford. You're thinking of him inventing the first car. Well, internal combustion, not completely his idea.
Yeah, it's interesting if large companies now, like let's get real with where construction's at.
Yeah.
And this whole theme of innovation that could come out of Crystal Palace. It's an amazing feat. It's something that, I mean, even today we would look at and say, 5 months for 1 million square feet. Like if somebody approached you about that project,
you'd laugh at them.
I guess, guess what we want you to do? 5 months, 1 million square feet. You've got all the resources in hand. We're going to streamline some permit processes, but it has to happen. Makes me think of the Olympics in a way, like some of the things that take place with that, or sporting events. Like you got to award a sporting event, boom, it's time to go. We got to get this done. There's a deadline, and like we're going to do whatever it takes. Not all projects can function that way.
Yeah.
Companies would die left and right if we operated in that kind of innovative mindset all of the time. If we were that breakneck all the time, we would be inefficient. We'd spend a lot of money. There's another side of this, to be certain. But the fun part on the other side is that when you break through, in World War II, just before, people were trying to break a 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
Somebody not long ago, I think it was last week, this will be a few weeks back when this airs, ran like a 3:45. I forget what the
Jeez.
time was, but at one time, people thought, you're not going to go under 4. Somebody did it.
It's humanly impossible.
And then humans start to believe, and then humans replicate that. The 100-mile-an-hour mark for a fastball was somewhat that way. You mind block yourself and go, we can't.
How much of construction do you feel like is kind of that flea in a jar mindset? And for those of you that don't know that, was it analogy? It's if you put fleas in a jar and you put a lid on the jar and you leave them there for a week or two, you can eventually just take the lid off of the jar and the fleas will not actually jump out because they met the resistance of the lid so many times. They're not able to go past the lid anymore.
Yep.
They believe there's a lid there, even though there's not.
Yep.
And I wonder how much of that happens in construction.
Oh, it absolutely does.
All the time. It
happens in everything.
We will, yeah.
Music, sports. Yes.
We put restraints on ourselves in the industry and say, we could never do it in 5 months because of. Like, listen, why not try? Why not give it a shot? Like, take the gloves off. Let's go. Let's try to figure it out. I know that it'll be hard. You probably are going to have a bunch of sleepless nights as a result of this project. But, Eliud Kipchoge, who broke 2-hour marathon, I'm sure he had some sleepless nights. I'm sure he was a little bit nervous. And he had to chase that for a really, really long time before he was actually able to break 2 hours. I think we put a lid on the industry and say we're only capable of doing things this fast, this efficiently, instead of working the problem. And I think the contractors that get that and can work the problem and can work with the people inside of the project, those are the contractors that are going to be here for the next 150, 200 years, For the guy that breaks the record, that, there might be a lot of people pushing for a thing, pushing for a record. Yeah.
Pushing for a new way of doing things. Then that person breaks through and proves it's possible.
Yeah.
Many times what will happen directly after is 15 more come in behind them and do it too. Directly after they've done it. And you're like, where have they been? Why all of a sudden has there been this huge group of people that have now crossed the line? Somebody proved it was possible. Somebody got over the line. In construction, I think that could totally happen. As we prove that we could, modularize or manufacture or 3D print or you name whatever buzzy technology thing you want to
pick what
put
you
in
want.
There. Or reduce the footprint of a building, the carbon footprint of a building, to where it would be like a truly net zero thing.
Yeah.
It's like, is that even possible? Well, what if somebody figures out how? Well, there's going to be 30 people do it too. And that's the thing about why is it worth you doing it? Why is it worth you being the innovator? Why is it worth you being the one to push? Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't you just sit back, not take the risk, and just let it happen? Well, if you break through, you'll be first and one remembered for it. But you're also going to encourage a cloud of people around you to do it too. And if it is something like a carbon net zero building, like something truly that is, an environmentally friendly way of building, everybody does that too. Well, guess what? You just had a pretty big impact.
Yeah.
You just improved the place where we all get to live. And that's a deal right now. So
we operate scared, I think, a lot of times. And so it prevents us from trying some of those things.
Sure.
Like we do operate out of fear. And I feel that as a business owner, it's like, I don't want to shake it up too much because it's like, oh, well, I got to feed a family.
Yeah. Burning the whole business down doesn't serve your purposes either.
It doesn't serve your purposes. So I understand there's got to be a little bit of a give and a take to this.
Yeah.
But I think moral of the story here, guys, is be bold. Mm. Be bold this week. try something new, you know, and it may not work out the first time. It may not work out the first 100. What is Edison, 1,000 ways not to build a light bulb? It's the persistence that ultimately matters. It's persistence in, I'm going to try to find new ways of doing things. I'm going to, you know, stay persistent on building relationships with the people around me, building relationships with people at the permitting office, you know, like helping that process out, maybe finding out ways that you can help improve their process. There are just massive improvements that could be made in the industry. We all know that. But this is just a moment of encouragement, I think. It's a charge to go back in history and look at some of these projects that have happened before us and before our time, and to say, like, pretty crazy things were impossible in 1851. What do you think's really possible here in 2023? Because I think there's a lot more than what we're doing. I don't know about you, but okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. We're going to go and eat the rest of our cookies now that we're not on mic, and that way you guys don't have to hear it. So, hey, cookies, go build something awesome.